Hey there, welcome back. We missed you. I get to sample a lot of tasty treats on the show, which makes me happy because I feel I have a very healthy relationship with food. But not everyone is so lucky. So here to help us understand how women of color develop and deal with eating disorders is LaShawn Marie Paul, founder of Social Work Diva.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks so much for being here, LaShawn. First of all, give us a full picture about who's affected by this disease.
Okay, so 1 in 20 women in the United States are affected by this disease every day. I pretty much say women because men are also affected by eating disorders, but more so muscle dysmorphia rather than binge eating, anorexia, or bulimia.
Right.
So what do you mean when you say muscle dysmorphia? What does that mean?
Muscle dysmorphia is the need to build muscle mass. So it's the taking of steroids or extra protein shakes that are damaging to the liver or to the body just in order to gain the muscle that they desire.
And I think that's a universal thing, that there's body image problems regardless of gender, but also regardless of race. And I think what's interesting is that, some of these eating disorders can be considered kind of like a white girl's problem, but that's not really the case, right?
Not necessarily. Like the old image was an upper class white woman's issue. And what research has found out is that other cultures have been facing these same issues that were previously done before. And what occurred was that they noticed that class had a lot to do with it. And because of class, that's synonymous with race, people felt that white women dealt with these issues, where we came to find out that there's other cultures such as Black and Latinos that have the similar issues.
So what are some of the issues that affect
Some of the issues are anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating. For African American cultures, we tend to find out that binge eating is really what predominantly is seen as what is the main eating disorder of that particular group.
And one of the interesting things I think that you pointed out was that now more Black girls are becoming more financially independent. They're getting, they're becoming more successful, and they're kind of going into more white-dominated workplaces, and that can have an impact on them as well.
Definitely.
Right?
As they make more money, they assimilate to the dominant culture, which is then to have the thin frame as what is seen traditionally as a white culture,
rather than Black culture. In the media.
Yeah, exactly. Because what we tend to see for Black women are this thick, curvy-shaped women. In reality, this is what the people who are making more money are deeming as something they want to shy away from in order to fit in.
And I think, you mentioned a good point that this is something that can affect anybody. It's not, restricted to one certain group. I mean, even very successful people have struggled with this, including Melissa Harris Perry, who I think recently talked about this. And I think we have a clip of her talking about it. So let's check that out.
I was a soccer player in high school where I learned all of the tools and tricks of being bulimic, and spent a couple of years in college being bulimic. I'm the survivor of childhood sexual assault. It was very clear to me once I got into therapy for eating disorders later on that lots of the women who were experiencing eating disorders were kind of managing the crisis of our bodies, and it was a crisis that had begun because we had been either raped or molested.
She brought up a very good point. She was talking about rape and molestation. And I know within our community, we don't talk about such things, which in the Black community in America, we don't have those discussions. So how is it that it manifests for us even further, and who's most susceptible to an eating disorder?
Absolutely. In Black culture, we don't tend to air our dirty laundry.
Right.
So with that being said, people who there's a direct correlation with sexual abuse, as Melissa pointed out, and what it's regardless of psychological reasons, social, interpersonal reasons are one of the main reasons, but sexual abuse is something that is really big within that because of the body dissatisfaction and the low self-esteem that comes along with it. And with that being said, the women will then they say to themselves, I want to change myself so I'm not that vulnerable person that I was when I got abused. So they try to manipulate food in order to manipulate and have control
over something,
and then especially with people who are binge eating, they add on the layers, so add on the weight in order to protect themselves from these so to make sure that they're no longer victims anymore.
Right, and I think an important thing that we just addressed too is the dialogue, because I think a lot of times you know, members of the African American community don't want to say, I need help, I want to talk about this. It's I
same
think
thing in Latino culture as well.
Yeah, that you don't want to sort of air your dirty laundry and say that, oh, my family has problems or maybe I have issues. And I think it's great that Melissa Harris Perry is coming out now and talking about it. But, you know, you obviously have dealt, you kind of researched this. How bad can the eating disorders actually get?
It could be extremely dangerous, particularly for any of them, but particularly anorexia. Because of the malnutrition, they require immediate medical attention. In regards to bulimia, there's other different issues that comes along with it, such as gastrointestinal issues, acid reflux, those sort of things, like erosion of the teeth. But then in regards to binge eating, what ends up happening is their risk for coronary heart disease and diabetes and other different things, because they're packing on so much weight and they can no longer control their impulse.
So I believe it takes a village. So what can we do as a community to help with these issues that come up?
As a community, we could have an open dialogue and discussion, not be judgmental, and also teach like healthy living and healthy lifestyle. So by doing that, we have the conversation of what's the proper foods to eat and how to eat it, and have this positive relationship with food rather than something that's negative.
Yeah, well, I think starting the dialogue is so important, and we really appreciate you coming here and talking about these issues. They're so important.
Thank you a lot, LaShawn.
If you or someone you know is suffering from an eating disorder, call the National Eating Disorder Association NEDA helpline at 1-800-931-2237.
When Arise and Shine returns, the Grammy-winning Winen brothers get giddy with Lola and Shannon on Arise 360.
Then Chris Crouch of Moans Couture will share some of his trade secrets with us, like how he solders joy into every piece of jewelry he makes. Want to know how that's done? Well, stick around.